As they parted, breathless, Alaric's eyes were darkened with unspoken emotion. "No more running," he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. "Never again," she whispered back, sealing their pact in that perfect moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness began to blanket the vineyard. Scene 42. Navigating new waters. The sun dipped low over the vineyard, casting a warm golden hue that danced through the leaves and painted shadows on the ground. The scent of ripe grapes mingled with the crisp autumn air, a complex bouquet of sweetness and earthiness that hung between Alaric Ughandu and Amara Sorensen like an unspoken bond. They stood on the porch of the old estate, the weathered wood creaking softly beneath their feet, both acutely aware of the shared space that felt electric with tension. Alaric leaned against the railing, arms crossed, his brow furrowed as he surveyed the rows of vine that curved into the horizon. He preferred the isolation of the vineyard to crowded rooms, but standing here with Amara felt different. It felt charged. A gust of wind tousled his dark hair, revealing the intensity of his gaze, which flickered toward her like a moth to flame before he reclaimed his demeanor, suppressing the smile that threatened to break the tension. "Looks like your grapes are finally ready for harvest. Must be nice to see something flourish, huh?" Amara's voice, laced with both challenge and softness, pulled him out of his thoughts. He turned to her, his features softening just a fraction. "I'm not sure they'd taste half as sweet without your meticulous care." His words were laced with an undercurrent of admiration that caught her off guard. She met his gaze, her heart pounding as if answering an unspoken invitation. "Flattery will only get you so far, Alaric. You still need to haul those barrels up from the cellar. Remember last week?" He chuckled, the sound deep and rich, somehow managing to lighten the air between them. "Ah, but who else would I impress with my barrels of crushed fruit?" He flashed her a grin, a quick corner of his lip curving up mischievously, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Are you comparing grape juice to a romantic endeavor?" Amara shot back playfully, arching an eyebrow. "Because that seems fruity." "More like squishy," he countered swiftly, tilting his head as though gauging her with playful scrutiny. "Tache." She laughed, the sound bright in the cool evening air. In that moment, their laughter intertwined, revealing a camaraderie that brewed beneath the surface of their banter. But amid the laughter lingered a palpable tension, thick enough to taste. As they moved toward the cellar, the weight of their past hung in the air. Alaric's hidden guilt, Amara's looming doubts. She noticed the way he clenched his jaw as they descended the steps, shadows swallowing them whole for a few moments before they emerged into the dimly lit cellar, an oasis of coolness. Amara reached for a barrel, her fingers brushing the textured wood. "You're going to help me with this, right?" she said, her voice playful but edged with an unspoken plea for cooperation. "Absolutely," he replied, his tone shifting as he stepped closer. "But just so you know, I'm more of a planner than a doer." His eyes narrowed playfully. "I mapped everything out: barrel transportation, fermentation times, and the most crucial, making sure you don't overindulge my ego. Is that why you're here, to cart my ego around like a precious vintage?" He paused, his expression becoming suddenly serious. "No, Amara. I'm here to make sure you don't overexert yourself. We're in this together now, remember?" As their eyes locked, the laughter faded, replaced by a rush of something impossibly profound. The air turned thick with words left unsaid, a challenging mixture of vulnerability and desire. Just then, she shifted closer, a subtle move that knocked against the barrel, creating an echo like a heartbeat in the quiet space. "Together," she echoed, her voice a breath. "Can we really trust each other with all of this?" She gestured vaguely to the barrels, the vineyard, their lives, in fact, looming above them like a spectral challenge. Alaric stepped even closer, his intense gaze penetrating. "We have to, don't we?" He looked deep into her eyes, understanding threading through the space between them, the world outside forgotten. "I've seen what men do to things they don't respect. You deserve far better than that." Amara felt her heart race, the weight of their entwined fates heavy yet exhilarating. "And what if we fail?" she whispered, half teasing, half terrified. He reached out, lightly brushing his fingers against hers, a tender gesture that ignited the air. "We won't. Not while we're still standing here." With that, a weight lifted, and as if the world had decided to release them from every shadow, the vineyard felt reborn in the warmth of their connection. Outside, the wind rustled through the leaves, a whispering promise, and Amara smiled softly, her doubts momentarily quelled under the steadiness of his presence. Scene 43. Memories of Pain. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm, golden sheen over the sprawling vineyard that Amara Sorensen had poured her heart into. The air was rich with the musky aroma of ripe grapes, each cluster hanging heavy with promise. Laughter and the sharp clink of glasses floated from the terrace, where guests enjoyed a charcuterie spread under the broad oak that stood sentinel over the property. Despite the cheerful sounds, an oppressive weight settled on Amara's chest. Amara leaned against the weathered railing, her fingers tracing the grain of the wood, the roughness grounding her in the moment. "Alaric," she called out, her voice strained, pulling the man she had grown to trust into her orbit. He strolled over, tall and imposing, the late sunlight catching the glossy strands of his hair, accentuating the chiseled features that made her heart race and mind wander. "Yes," he replied, the hint of a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, a fleeting sense of ease before the storm within her gathered strength. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine," Amara blurted, her voice softer now. "Not with what's been happening, not after." Her sentence stuttered to a halt, the memory of her mother's laughter twisting into a knife of nostalgia and sorrow. Alaric stepped closer, the warmth of his presence wrapping around her as the cool breeze carried the faint sound of a heavy door slamming from the main house. "What happened in the past doesn't have to define you, Amara. You're stronger than that storm." She glanced sideways at him, his dark eyes intense yet contemplative. "You talk like you know what it's like to see everything burn." Vulnerability danced in her words, and for the first time she felt the fissures in her armor, the truth of her mother's death crackling like static between them. "It's not just about me," he replied, his voice softening. "But yes, I do know that feeling, and you're not alone in this." He reached out, placing his hand over hers on the railing, his touch a mixture of warmth and awareness that calmed the gale of emotions within her. "I thought I could handle everything on my own. I kept believing I didn't need help," Amara confessed, her throat tightening around the weight of her admission. "Sometimes it's that belief that holds us back. It's okay to lean on me," he said, the sincerity in his voice drawing her gaze back to him. Intrigued by the depths of his words, she felt an unexpected connection, as if they were wandering in the same storm-tossed boat. "Lean on you?" Amara chuckled lightly, attempting to mask the depth of her feelings with humor. "What are you, my emotional crutch?" Alaric's grin was infectious, throwing the shadows of her worries into retreat. "If I'm your crutch, I'd prefer to be a solid oak tree instead." She laughed again, the sound ringing clear through the evening haze. But then the laughter faded, each note clinging to the air, their chemistry thickening like the sweet notes of dessert wine. Their eyes held a challenging mix of fear and longing, their breaths intermingling, a silent dance, leading them toward something both electrifying and vulnerable. "Alaric," she whispered, the name tasting foreign on her tongue, imbued with newfound feelings. "Can we just stop pretending just for tonight? All the danger, the interruptions." His answer came in a heartbeat, and without a word he closed the gap between them. His hands cupped her face, tilting her head slightly, inviting her into the warmth of his gaze, the world fading around them as he leaned closer. Their lips brushed softly at first, a delicate flutter that ignited an avalanche of feelings, the sensations swirling in their core demanded to be set free. "Amara," he breathed against her, and the mere sound sent shivers racing through her veins. The kiss deepened, transforming the air between them into a tide of unrestrained emotion. For moments, time slipped away, and the chaotic world beyond their embrace dissolved in a blur. With each caress, each wistful exchange of breaths, Amara felt her defenses crumbling, the weight of her pain easing into something light and bright, a flicker of hope igniting the dark corners of her mind. And just when they reached the precipice where the past and the future collided, the evening sky finally swallowed the sun. A sudden shout from the terrace broke the spell, a reminder that their world had not changed, that the shadows still loomed. But as they pulled apart, The heat of their shared moment lingered like the fading glow of dusk, and Amara clenched her fists, determination sparking anew within her. "We will face the ghosts together, won't we?" she declared, her voice steady, even as uncertainty hung in the air. Alaric's expression hardened into something resolute. "As long as I'm by your side." In the echoes of their past, they had found a fragile tether to hope. Scene 44. Shattered expectations. The flickering twilight bled through the windows of the exclusive restaurant, casting long shadows across Alaric Ughandu's solemn face. Amara Sorensen sat opposite him, her fingers tightly clenching the heavy glass of her water. The clamor of laughter from a nearby table swirled around them, but the tension between the two left the air stiflingly heavy. "Do you think they'll accept us?" Amara broke the silence, her voice a mere whisper drowned out by the raucous cheer of their estranged friends gathered a few booths down. The clinking of cutlery and muffled conversations felt like a world apart, filled with memories of camaraderie now tainted by uncertainty. Alaric leaned forward, his gaze penetrating. "They should be worried about accepting you. You're the one with the vineyard, remember?" The corner of her mouth twitched in a half-hearted smile, but her heart raced with anxiety. "I guess, but they don't see me that way anymore. It's always about who I'm dating or what I'm doing wrong." "But you're stronger than they expect," he replied, his voice steady, cutting through her self-doubt like a knife through thick fog. "You own that vineyard, your dream. They need to see that. Yeah, if they can get past the fact that I'm with you." The hint of bitterness in her tone surprised her. The weight of judgment she imagined filled her chest. Alaric arched an eyebrow, shaking his head softly. "They might just need a little push to realize how lucky I am." Amara held her breath at the daring confidence in his words. Just then, the sharp laugh of Morgan, her childhood friend, sliced through the chatter. She was a vision in a bright yellow dress that danced around her knees and overshadowed most of the muted tones around her. "Look who finally decided to join us," Morgan announced, eyes sparking with a mix of mirth and malice as she approached, flanked by two of their old friends, Tara and Chloe. "Nice to see you, Amara," Chloe said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "And Alaric, you still do that brooding thing?" Alaric maintained his composure, but the tension was palpable. "Only when I'm around people who insist on turning reunions into roasting sessions." Tara feigned shock, placing a hand over her heart. "Surely not. We would never roast our dearest friends. Amara must have told you some interesting stories." "Stories? Yes," Amara said defiantly, searching for Alaric's eyes for reassurance. She could feel their judgment, unmistakable and stinging. "But let's just say I'm not interested in reliving the past." Morgan's laughter rang out again, a little too loud amidst the simmering discontent. "How fantastic! Are you telling us you've turned over a new leaf, or are you just clinging to the remnants of your old life?" "That's enough, Morgan," Alaric said, his tone turning serious and low. "You can't honestly believe tearing each other down builds anyone up." "But it builds drama," Morgan shot back, the corner of her mouth curving up in a self-satisfied smirk. She was clearly enjoying the discomfort. Amara's temper flared. "And when were you ever the architect of building anything real, Morgan?" Silence enveloped the table, thick as smoke. Amara felt Alaric by her side, his presence steadying. "You know what?" Morgan said, breaking the tension. "Let's see what we're really made of. A little game to lighten the mood. How about truth or dare?" "I'm not your puppet," Amara replied, crossing her arms. "Then let's settle this like adults," Alaric interjected coolly. "You can keep trying to tear her down, or you can support her. We both know where this is heading." Morgan scoffed, but there was a spark of uncertainty as Alaric's words hung in the air. "You sound different, Alaric," Tara mused, her critical gaze softening. "Do you really think you can protect her?" Alaric turned the question back gently. "Not just protect. I want to inspire her to be more than what you all thought she could be." Amara felt her breath hitch, and for a fleeting moment, hope ignited within her chest as she held his gaze. "Then let's be real. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to reclaim who I am, and that includes Alaric." A heavy pause weighed upon them, and the atmosphere shifted almost imperceptibly. "You'll pave your path, Amara," Alaric whispered, his voice a mere thread between them, "with or without their approval." As Morgan stared daggers at them, Amara felt the courage swell inside her. She was ready to step beyond shattered expectations to embrace the possibilities ahead. "Game on, then," she said, her earlier uncertainty replaced by a blooming strength. "Imagine trying to win a game against me." The edge of her lips curled upward, and she shot Alaric a knowing glance, the warmth igniting a spark that flickered defiantly in the dim light. "You might be surprised what's worth winning," Alaric murmured, their eyes locking in a moment of promise and resolve that pushed through the clamor of judgment surrounding them. Scene 45. The love quickly blooms. The sun dipped low over the rolling hills of Amara Sorensen's vineyard, casting a warm golden hue across the sprawling rows of grapes. A gentle breeze sent tendrils of fragrant lavender trailing through the air, mixing with the sweet scent of ripe fruit, an intoxicating blend that echoed the chaos and calm of the day. The sounds of nature were punctuated by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds, creating a serene backdrop for an unexpectedly turbulent evening. Alaric Ughandu leaned against a weathered oak tree, his intense gaze flickering across the vineyard's horizon. His broad shoulders relaxed under the weight of vulnerability, a sharp contrast to the practiced stoicism he wore like armor. Amara found herself captivated by the way the dying light danced upon his skin, illuminating the depth of his expressiveness. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said, her voice a gentle thread pulling him from his reverie. She stepped closer, the crunch of gravel beneath her feet punctuating the otherwise quiet evening. "What the vineyard, or the impending doom hovering over both of us?" Alaric replied, a wry smile easing some of the tension in his eyes. Amara laughed lightly, a musical sound that contrasted with their heavy conversation. "Both, I guess, but I meant the vineyard." She gestured to the rows of grapes, heavy with fruit that promised a bountiful harvest, yet stood frail amidst the threats they faced. Moving closer, Amara brushed her fingers along a cluster of grapes, her touch lingering. "This place is my sanctuary," she continued, her heartbeat quickening. "And yet, I feel like I'm losing it. Every moment a new challenge arises." "You're not losing it. Not if you fight," Alaric asserted, his voice low, yet firm. He straightened, stepping into her space. His proximity sent an electrifying jolt through Amara. "And what if I don't know how to fight back? What if I'm not enough?" she asked, vulnerability slipping through her poised demeanor. Alaric's expression softened, and for a moment, the world around them vanished. "You are more than enough, Amara. Don't let anyone, especially not yourself, convince you otherwise." The gravity of his words settled over her, solid yet tender. "That's easy for you to say," she confessed, suddenly feeling the weight of her fears. The memories of her mother's ambitious cruelties washed over her, tainting her resolve. "I know that feeling." Alaric stepped closer, closing the distance. "I've seen darkness, and I won't let it consume you. You've got your vineyard, and I have you." The night air thickened with unsaid emotions, swirling around them like a tantalizing fog. Alaric reached out, his fingers brushing against hers in a tentative dance of connection. "Amara, He stopped, the moment poised on a razor's edge. With a sudden rush, Amara captured his hand fully, the warmth of his skin sending a shiver down her spine. "What is it, Alaric?" she pressed, her breath shallow with anticipation. His piercing gaze held hers, layers of emotion churning just beneath the surface. "I need you to know that I'm here, no matter the danger, for you and the vineyard." A soft smile broke through Amara's tumultuous thoughts. It felt as if the vineyard around them bloomed all at once, vines entwining, fruit ripening into sweet possibility. "You might be my only ally left," she whispered. "And I'll make sure you don't face any battles alone," he promised, his voice deepening with a sense of purpose. Amara's heart raced as she stepped even closer, their bodies nearly touching. "You mean it?" "I do," Alaric said, his breath mingling with hers, a silent, powerful bond forming in the charged air around them. With a shared understanding of unspoken fears and fierce hope, their lips met in a soft, deliberate kiss, a blend of urgency and gentleness that held promise beneath the weight of uncertainty. Amara melted into him, feeling safe yet electrified, as if the kiss were not just an escape, but a declaration of the battles and love to come. As their lips parted, silence enveloped them, broken only by the soft hum of the vineyard at twilight. Amara found herself breathless, gazing up at Alaric. I think love might bloom in the most unexpected places, she murmured, realizing with startling clarity that they were about to face the darkness together. Scene 46, tension in the vineyard. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the rows of grapevines at Sorensen vineyard. The air was thick with the scent of summer-ripe fruits and the earthiness of damp soil after a morning rain. Amara Sorensen, her hands covered in rich, dark soil, knelt before a young vine, carefully retethering it to its support. The familiar view of the vineyard, sprawling and lush, stretched before her as serene sound of bees buzzing filled the silence. Their gentle hum was almost as comforting as the nurturing warmth radiating from the sun's rays on her back. Sitting on a nearby barrel, Alaric Ughandu watched her, his expression a mix of admiration and something deeper, unsettlingly protective. The stark contrast of his sharp, tailored attire against the rustic vineyard backdrop only amplified his intensity. "Could you stop making that vine feel inadequate?" Alaric quipped, a smirk creeping across his lips. "It's getting jealous of your care." Amara chuckled, glancing up at him. "Jealous? This vine has all the foliage it needs. Maybe it just needs some confidence." She gave the vine an affectionate pat, her eyes glittering with mischief. "Next thing you know to want a pep talk," he teased, leaning back on the barrel and crossing his arms. As their playful repartee filled the air, the tension simmered just beneath the surface. They both felt it, the electric connection that pulsed louder with every shared glance, every subtle exchange. Just then, she noticed a blush creeping up his neck as he shifted his gaze, momentarily flustered. "Do you think these will be ready for the harvest?" Amara asked, hoping to redirect the conversation from the unsaid but felt. Alaric's voice turned serious, stripped of its earlier levity. "If we keep nurturing them, they'll flourish. Just like people, I suppose," he said, letting the weight of his statement linger in the air, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that demanded an honest answer. Fumbling slightly, Amara murmured, "Aren't we both a little overshadowed by our pasts?" She wiped her hands on her jeans, the motion almost nervously evasive. "Every vine has its troubles," Alaric replied, his tone softening as he stepped closer. The underlying current between them thickened, blooming into something palpable they could no longer overlook. Amara hesitated, instinctively aware that delving into the depths of vulnerability could give way to volatility. Yet she couldn't resist the pull. "What if it's not enough? What if I—" She trailed off, shivering slightly as a breeze whispered through the leaves. With each word unsaid, the distance between them dissolved, and Alaric reached for her, his warmth enveloping her fingers. "Even vines need storms to grow stronger. We don't need to be perfect," he said with a steeliness that hinted at his own scars. "Yes, but what if?" she began, but he cut her off gently. "Amara," he said, his voice low and steady, "stop what-if-ing and just—" Their eyes locked, a heartbeat past, charged and electric. Then, in one bold move, Alaric closed the distance, pulling her closer. Amara's breath hitched involuntarily, caught between fear and longing. "We can't keep dodging this," he murmured, his lips inches from hers. "I need you to trust this." Trust. The word floated between them, heavy with meaning. Before she could form a coherent thought, Alaric tilted her chin upwards and the world faded into a harmonious blend of sunlight and pheromones. When their lips finally met, it was delicate at first, a tentative exploration that quickly ignited into a fierce, desperate connection. Amara felt his hand slip to her waist, pulling her against him, deepening the kiss as the flavor of wine and earth filled the air around them, mingled with the thrill of unspoken truths shared. It was a collision of past sorrows and unquenched desires, overwhelming and addictive. Just as she thought it could get any deeper, he pulled back ever so slightly, his forehead resting against hers, both of them breathing heavily, as if they had just run a marathon. "See? Isn't that better than talking about vines?" he breathed, a teasing twinkle in his eye, breaking the tension with humor. Amara laughed softly, their shared breath mingling in the warm air. "I'll take my lessons from you any day." She leaned in, savoring the moment. The world was still spinning, but for once they were standing firm against its whirlwind together. Every doubt melted away, overshadowed by that reality. Love can conquer all, even in the face of looming chaos. Scene 47, Veiled Threats. The late afternoon sun poured through the dusty windows of the vineyard's tasting room, casting warm golden light over the rows of elegant bottles. Amara Sorensen stood behind the bar, her fingers dancing over the labels as she meticulously arranged the bottles for the upcoming harvest festival. The soft clinking of glass was the only sound, accompanied by the distant rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Yet beneath this peaceful facade lurked an unease that seemed to shadow her every move. Just then, Alaric Ughandu stepped into the room. His presence was magnetic, exuding a charisma that drew all eyes, especially hers. He wore a simple black t-shirt, almost too casual for her meticulously organized world, but it framed his muscular frame in a way that made her heart race. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice smooth as he leaned against the bar, watching her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "I can manage," Amara replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. She fought the growing distraction of his presence, just trying to make everything perfect for the festival. Alaric pushed off the bar, stepping closer, the air thickening between them. "Amara, perfection is overrated. Sometimes you just need to let things be. Unexpected. Is that your way of hinting that I should drop a bottle or two?" She shot back, a teasing smirk playing on her lips, lightening the moment. He chuckled, a rich sound that wrapped around her like a warm blanket. "Only if you want a story to add to the vineyard's history. The great wine spill of Harvest 23. Harvest 23? That's not quite as catchy as Great Flood 99, she parried, folding her arms. Though maybe it would draw the crowds. As she spoke, they both knew the laughter was a mask for deeper tensions. The shade of the impending danger from the crime syndicate loomed, and it haunted them both. Alaric's gaze softened momentarily, revealing a vulnerability he rarely showed. "You know I'm here to protect what's yours, what's ours," he said, the weight of his words settling heavily in the air. Amara steadied herself against the bar. "I know you are." She watched him for a beat, her heart heavy with the images of their earlier encounters that had left her both dazzled and wary. "It's just, I don't want to drag you into my mess." His eyes locked onto hers, dark and fathomless. "You mean you don't want to drag me into your life, but it's your life that's in danger." "I can handle it. I always have." Determination edged her tone, yet the tremor in her voice hinted at the pressure building within. "Handling it doesn't mean doing it alone," Alaric shot back, lifting a brow, stepping forward so that their faces were mere inches apart. The tension between them heightened, a magnetic pull that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Amara opened her mouth to argue, to refute his assertion, but the words caught in her throat as he reached out, brushing his fingers lightly against her arm. The simplest touch sent a surge of warmth pooling deep within her, erasing the space of self-doubt. For a moment, they stood suspended in a bubble, two souls teetering on the edge of vulnerability and desire. "Is that what this is for you?" His voice dropped. The air thickened with unspoken question. "Can you handle it? When the threats start haunting you in the silence?" "Alaric," she began, her resolve wavering. "Let go, Amara." The command was gentle, yet it held an authority she felt deep in her bones. "Let me be part of it." Breathless, she leaned into him, her heart hammering as his thumb grazed her cheek, the rush of emotions spiraling into a whirlpool of fear and longing. You don't understand what I'm capable of," she whispered with a mixture of pride and trepidation. "Neither do you," he replied, his breath warm against her forehead. "But that doesn't mean I won't stand beside you." For a heartbeat, everything outside that room faded into oblivion. No threats, no fears, just the unrelenting pull of connection. Alaric tilted his head slightly and in an unguarded moment closed the gap between them. Their lips met, softly at first, the connection light and fluid as if the world were holding its breath. As the kiss deepened, Amara's resolve began to crumble, replaced by an overwhelming urge to surrender to him, to the safety he promised. But just as the sensation became intoxicating, a noise shattered the stillness. The sound of a shattering bottle echoed through the room, pulling them back to reality. "Seriously?" Amara rolled her eyes, stepping back reluctantly, her composure fraying. "I can't even have a moment of, where there's wine, there's chaos." Alaric grinned, the tension lifting slightly as they both chuckled, though it was laced with an undercurrent of unease. "Now, how about you? Let me help you with the bottles. Only if you don't drop any, she shot back, matching his playful challenge, as her heart returned to a steadier rhythm, though shadows still danced at the corners of their minds. Deal. As they resumed their task, the connectedness lingered between them like unwritten promises, and the storm on the horizon felt just a little less daunting with him by her side. Scene 48, Seeking Solace. The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over Amara's vineyard, illuminating the lush rows of Chardonnay vines that swayed gently in the breeze. The air was rich with the scent of ripening fruit, sweet yet tinged with the earthiness of the damp soil. Amara stood with her arms crossed, gazing out at the expansive landscape, the rolling hills of vibrant green beneath the glow of a setting sun. Yet despite the beauty surrounding her, unease churned within. "Why do you stand there like a statue?" Alaric's voice broke through her reverie, laced with an edge of humor that pulled at her lips, despite the storm raging inside. He leaned against the rough wooden post of the fence, his dark silhouette stark against the sun-kissed backdrop of the vineyard. "I'd think you were waiting for an invisible horse to ride off into the sunset." Amara turned to face him, her expression a brewing tempest. "Perhaps I am," she retorted, forced calm barely masking the quiver in her voice. "If only it could carry me far away from these impending threats and relentless drama." He took a step closer, the tension between them crackling like the heat in the air. "Running won't solve anything, Amara. You need to confront it head on, like how you deal with those stuck-up investors. Just stomp your foot and they'll scatter like roaches." A flash of annoyance crossed her features, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed violently against her hip, drawing her attention. A message from her former friend Claire, flooded with insidious gossip about her latest failures in business. Amara's breath hitched. "More lovely news from Claire?" Alaric asked, his tone shifting, picking up on her sudden stillness. "It's nothing." She shoved the phone into her pocket, her eyes shifting away. "I don't need to replay those past criticisms. I have enough of my own doubts without her adding to the mix." He stepped into her personal space, his intense gaze searching hers. "Amara," he murmured, his voice low and steady, "you're stronger than that. You've built this vineyard with your own two hands. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not her or anyone in the fickle world of wine." Anger flared within her, and she scuffed her feet against the warm earth. "You make it sound so simple. Just shove my fears under the rug. Abandon what makes me human." The vulnerability slipped through her defenses like a crack in armor, revealing a glint of pain. "You don't understand this perpetual weight I carry." Alaric's expression softened as he moved closer, speaking softly now, the guarded intensity melting away. "You think it's easy for me? I see your struggles. Hell, I want to take your burdens on my shoulders." "And what? Walk me home behind a facade of bravery?" she interrupted, her chest tightening. "Damn it, I'm serious. I can't keep pretending that I'm unaffected by this." He gestured toward the distant horizon. "These people, this city, they've taken too much from me too. But I can't lose you. Not to fear. Not to those whispers." Amara's heart surged, a flurry of emotion pressing against her chest. "Alaric, she began, the weight of their shared understanding anchoring her, but just then another message dinged on her phone, and she turned away, frustration boiling. "Don't run from me." His voice was fierce yet tender as he reached for her wrist, drawing her closer again, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You don't have to do this alone. You never have to." "Why should I trust you?" she blurted out, the truth slipping from her lips like wine spilled from an overturned glass. "You were involved in the very thing that left me." "This isn't about that." Alaric's voice broke with emotion, and for a moment his carefully shielded heart emerged, raw and exposed. "I'm here now, Amara. I want to help you fight back, for what you want, for what you deserve." A flicker of vulnerability sparked in his eyes, drawing her closer, challenging her defenses. In that fragile moment, the air thickened with unspoken promises. Her walls trembled, oozing cracks where his honesty seeped in. "Then stand by me," she whispered, her defiance faltering, a tremor of hope threading through her heart. "Together we can face whatever comes next." "Always," Alaric vowed, his breath a mere whisper away from hers as he gently traced a finger along her jaw, igniting a heat that mingled with the heavy air, an invitation, unvoiced but undeniably clear. Underneath the vastness of the encroaching sky, they stood, drawn together by their complexities, shared scars, and a fragile emerging trust ready to embrace the storm together. Scene 49, The Secret Bond. The sun cast a golden glow over the rolling vines of Sorensen vineyards, leaves shimmering like emeralds in the late afternoon light. Amara Sorensen, apron tied snugly around her waist, was bent low over the wooden barrels, scrubbing them clean. The familiar, earthy scent of oak mingling with the crisp air made her feel at home. Yet there was a tension humming beneath the surface, palpable and heavy, as if the very vines were holding their breath. "Amara, you're going to wear those barrels down if you keep that up," Alaric Ughandu remarked, his presence unexpected but welcomed. He leaned casually against the doorframe of the wine cellar, arms crossed, a smirk dancing on his lips. The way his dark eyes sparkled even in the dim light had a way of making her heart stutter. "Better than letting them gather dust, Alaric," she retorted, her voice slightly sharper than intended. She paused, glancing up to meet his gaze, taking note of the way his jaw clenched slightly. "I could say the same about you. Been hiding around here again?" "I'd call it strategic observation," he countered, stepping inside the cellar with an easy grace. "Besides, someone has to keep an eye on you while you toil away." A flash of irritation crossed her face. "I'm not an invalid, you know. I can handle a few barrels." He tilted his head, a spark of amusement lighting his features. "Clearly, the way you're going, you'll have them polished to a shine before the next harvest." Amara put down her cloth, crossing her arms in a manner that mimicked his earlier stance. "You think it's funny? Cleaning becomes a battle of wills? Is that your idea of humor?" "No, but it's entertaining to watch you get all worked up." His smirk widened, but she could see the warmth behind his teasing. Her frustration mounted. "I'm just trying to keep this vineyard afloat, Alaric. It's not a joke. I don't have the luxury of sitting around." His expression shifted, the teasing fading into something more serious. "You know, running a business is tough. I get that," he said, his voice low. Then he hesitated, glancing around before continuing. "But you don't have to do it alone." Amara felt the weight of his words. "And you think I can just, what? Invite you to be my partner in all of this?" She couldn't keep the bitterness from her tone. "It's not that simple." "It can be," he replied softly, stepping closer. The air between them crackled with something unspoken, an energy that swirled as he continued. "I want to help you, but you've got to trust me, not just in the vineyard, but with." "Trust?" she interrupted, her voice rising. "Trust is built on honesty. You don't even share your truth with me. What do I know about your past, Alaric?" Her breath hitched a little, revealing her underlying fear. His gaze turned intense, piercing yet guarded. "My past, it's a part of me, just like your mother's death is a part of you." There was a heaviness, an unspoken understanding hanging in the air. Amara turned away, her stomach twisting as memories threatened to resurface. "You have no idea what it's like. The questions, the accusations, it's suffocating." He stepped to her side, his voice barely above a whisper. "I might know more than you think." She felt his proximity like a wave, crashing over her with both warmth and trepidation. He continued, "It's hard to carry the weight of someone else's tragedy." Slowly, she turned to face him, their breaths mingling in the charged space. "Is that why you hide? Because you're afraid someone will uncover your truth?" He was silent, his demeanor shifting, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "What if that truth could help us? Help you?" "By dragging you down with me." She chuckled bitterly, bracing for his retort, but he said nothing. Instead, he stepped even closer, his gaze unwavering. "I'm trying to protect you, Alaric, but you just keep making it harder for me." "And I'll keep trying," he declared, his intensity unwavering. "Because you deserve to have someone in your corner, just as I need someone to believe in me." The realization washed over her, and for a moment they stood locked in that turbulent space, two souls bound by secrets and pain. Amara brushed her fingers against the barrel, letting that connection ground her. "Maybe we both need saving then," she said softly, the air around them thick with something profound. Alaric's lips quirked slightly at the corners, the tension momentarily diffusing, yet an unresolved spark lingered. "That sounds like a plan, but first, let's make sure these barrels don't roll away from us." Amara's laugh broke through the heaviness, lightening the mood as her heart swelled. Just try to keep up, Ughandu. Ha! Wouldn't dream of falling behind you, Sorensen. Their banter filled the air, floating around them like an unbreakable bond one where laughter danced amid the shadows, illuminating the path toward something much more profound than either of them anticipated. Scene 50. Whispers of Jealousy. The sun dipped low behind the rolling hills of Amara's vineyard, casting an amber hue across the rows of grapevines. It was a serene evening, the air heavy with the sweet, earthy scent of ripening grapes, but tension hung in the atmosphere like storm clouds brewing on the horizon. Amara Sorensen stood with her back to the vineyard, facing the modest stone barn that housed her consulting firm. Her stomach twisted uncomfortably, an ill omen of the impending confrontation. Are we sure we want to do this? Alaric Ughandu leaned against the barn, arms crossed, a sharpness in his dark eyes. Though his brow was furrowed, he held an air of calm that contrasted with the sparks flickering between them. Alaric, this isn't just a business meeting. This concerns my family's legacy. Amara shot back, her tone more defensive than intended. The last thing she needed was for him to question her resolve. A legacy that seems to be attracting unwelcome guests, he replied, an edge creeping into his voice. Just then, Jason, Amara's charming yet insufferable ex, strolled into view, his casual confidence radiating like sunlight. Amara, there you are! Jason called out, his voice dripping with familiarity as he sauntered over. Alaric's eyes darkened, his jaw clenching ever so slightly. Heard you've got your hands full with the vineyard. Thought I'd check in. What do you want, Jason? Amara sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose, feeling an urge to roll her eyes. She shot a glance at Alaric, whose posture had shifted. He stood taller now, muscles taut, like a coiled spring. Oh, just wanted to see how things are going, Jason continued, oblivious to the palpable tension. Maybe I could help? Fix things up a bit? Seems like you've got a lot going on. Help? Is that what you're calling it now? Amara's sarcasm dripped like the wine from her vineyard, sharp and bitter. You've got a funny way of helping, Jason. Alaric pushed himself off the barn, moving closer to Amara, creating a protective barrier. If you're done stalking and playing the concerned ex, I suggest you walk away. His voice was low, but it carried an intensity that didn't go unnoticed. Jason smirked, assessing Alaric with feigned indifference. And who might you be? The new boyfriend? The question hung between them, charged with unspoken challenges. Amara twisted her fingers together, feeling caught in a web spun from old memories and new fears. This isn't a competition, Jason. Just stop. I'm running a business here. She stepped aside of Alaric, taking a breath to steady herself, not wanting him to shoulder this weight for her. If you're here to help, really help, you can leave me alone. Ah, come on, Amara. Don't be like that, Jason pouted. Here I am, offering my... Alaric's steady gaze cut him off, filled with a fierce protectiveness that made Amara's pulse quicken. It's not helpful if it's unwanted. She's not interested. Seems like someone's a bit jealous, huh? Jason teased, raising an eyebrow at Alaric, while Amara felt the heat of blush creep to her cheeks. Not jealous. Overprotective, Alaric replied, a hint of vulnerability surfacing in his voice. It's just disgusting how some can't take a hint. The air was thick with the scent of righteousness and the tang of unease. Look, Amara, you've blossomed into this fantastic entrepreneur. If you need me, I'm just a call away. Jason's grin was unwavering, but Amara caught a glimpse of insecurity beneath his confident veneer. Alaric's stance grew more pronounced, half a step forward as Amara found her footing. The only calls she needs are business ones, not from you. He turned to her, the intensity shifting to something softer, as if to remind her where she stood. Let him go, Amara. You have enough on your plate. But Amara couldn't shake the memory of how charming Jason had once been, the laughter they shared mixing with the bitterness of unresolved feelings. Why can't you just accept that I can handle myself? She retorted, her voice sharpened by the swelling tension. I don't need either of you to dictate my life. Alaric laid a gentle hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Because I care about you, Amara. I'm not trying to control you. I want you to see how extraordinary you are. You deserve respect, not manipulations. His dark eyes searched hers, a tumult of emotions playing out silently between them. Special effects aside, I think I get it, Jason piped in, breaking the moment. You think she deserves better, right? Look, Amara, you have a great thing going here. Don't let him ruin the chance of reconciliation. And don't let a few fond memories cloud your judgment, Alaric shot back, each syllable laden with protective fervor. Amara's heart hammered in her chest, torn between the familiar thrills of the past and the undeniable pull of the future she could build, side by side with Alaric. Jason's laughter peppered her memories as she turned her focus back to Alaric, feeling the weight of his concern, realizing just how much she valued his presence. Maybe we need to get a few things cleared up, she said softly, her gaze lingering on Alaric's, sensing the deeper truths lurking beneath the surface. Alaric's fingers tightened on her shoulder, eliciting a comforting warmth. Maybe we do, he murmured, a promise lingering in the air. The moment hung like ripe grapes, ready to burst. It felt like the world had narrowed to just the two of them, and every jealous whisper faded away. Scene 51. Stirrings of doubt. The sun dipped low over the rolling hills of Amara's vineyard, casting long, golden shadows that danced playfully across the well-tended rows of grapevines. The air was infused with the scent of ripe fruit, sweet and slightly tart, a promising hint of the harvest to come. Nearby, Amara meticulously sorted through a basket of grapes, her deft fingers sorting the fruit without a thought, lost in the rhythm of the task. She glanced up occasionally, the corners of her mouth curling at the sight of Alaric leaning against the weathered oak tree nearby, his silhouette sharp against the fading light. "Those look almost good enough to eat," Amara teased, her voice light, yet edged with a tension only Alaric seemed to perceive. "Maybe if you paid more attention to your quality control instead of flirting with the foreman," he shot back, a wry smile breaking the serious facade he often wore. Amara arched an eyebrow, laughter bubbling in her throat. "Flirting? I was merely discussing irrigation techniques." Her eyes sparkled, yet the moment felt heavy, an unspoken challenge lingering in the air between them. "Right, because nothing says I'm attracted to you quite like a chat about drip lines," Alaric replied, his tone teasing but his gaze distant. The banter might have invited laughter, but his heart drummed an unsettling rhythm. As Amara stood up straight, the basket brimmed with meticulously sorted grapes. She caught the shift in his expression. It had been subtle, the way he leaned slightly away, shoulders pulling back as if he were bracing for an unseen storm. "Hey, are you, allergic to fun now or something?" she quipped, trying to draw him back to her world, filled with sun and laughter. Alaric chuckled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "It's just," he started, then hesitated, the words caught in his throat. Silence spread between them like a thick fog, laden with all the weight they both carried. Amara stepped closer, noticing the way he shifted under her gaze, his dark eyes often a void she could get lost in, now brimming with doubts. "Alaric, what's wrong?" "Nothing," he began, but the lie tasted bitter. "Liar," she said, crossing her arms defiantly, an unwavering spark igniting in her voice. "I can tell when you're lying. You get all." She gestured awkwardly, trying to find the right words. Pensive, like a statue at a gallery looking for approval. A hesitant smile flickered at his lips, though it faded just as quickly. "Maybe that's my job then. Protecting the vineyard from pestilence doesn't leave much room for art," he replied, though the edge in his tone was uncharacteristic, revealing the seriousness that lay beneath. "Oh, come on. You can't tell me a guy like you hasn't fantasized about being a handsome Renaissance figure," she teased. But underneath their light-hearted banter, steam gathered in the air, thick as the fog rolling in from the horizon. "What is that about? You're allowed to feel too, you know." He didn't respond immediately, the silence stretching between them, pressing against them like an unseen force. The rhythm of their playful exchanges hung heavily in the stillness. As he finally looked at her, the tension spoke volumes, confessions they weren't ready to voice. "I feel inadequate, Amara," he finally admitted, a vulnerability escaping into the air between them. "Like I'm just a shadow in your world, something that doesn't quite fit." "Alaric, stop," she whispered, stepping closer, intuitively sensing the truth that bubbled beneath the surface. "You are anything but a shadow. You're—" Her words hung in the air, unformed yet electric, creating a flicker of warmth that danced between them. "You're my protector, my strength. I wouldn't be here without you." "Maybe that's what scares me," he muttered, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. "What if I fail? What if these battles we fight take us too far? But you never run. She stepped into his space, needing to see him clearly, to touch the raw edge of his uncertainty. You're still here, aren't you? With me? He opened his mouth, but no words formed, only the unsteady beat of his heart like a frail lifeline between them. Instead, Amara stood on tiptoes, capturing the gravity of the moment, threading her fingers into the soft fabric of his shirt, urging him closer. You are enough, just the way you are. And in that heartbeat, standing under the heavy canopy of trees, the world fell away, leaving just two souls grappling with their truth. The silence deepened, yet something simmered beneath it, a promise aching to bloom amid the uncertainties. Promise me you'll believe that, she murmured, her breath mingling with his, flavored with the sweetness of grape and warmth of growing hope. Promise, Alaric replied, the word heavy, laden with half-expressed fears, but for now it was enough. Scene 52, Emotional Outbursts. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the sprawling vineyard. Rows of vines, heavy with ripened grapes, undulated gently like waves in the evening breeze. The air was thick with the mingling scents of earth and fruit, punctuated by the faintest whiff of the oak barrels that lined the barn nearby.